This time on Captain Chaos's Laboratory, we're going to be working on an older Department 56 piece called Letters to Santa. Letters to Santa Sorting Station. It was made in 2006. So this is one of the older pieces that had this little box that runs on some batteries. And dunk. It plugs into the motor that makes this spin, and then this plugs into your, what do they call it? Display lighting remote control. Display lighting remote control. Or, if you didn't want to use that, it came with this adapter, which allows you to put a light bulb in. So it has some accessories, which I'm just leaving in the box. There's some in here, and then there's some under that, and there's actually some under that down there in the hole. No point in pulling out all the little accessories. So the problem is we're gonna get this cord out. We're gonna plug this motor in, like so. This occasionally stops. So if I hold it, it'll try to fight my finger. Then every once in a while it'll go click, which indicates to me there might be a broken gear. But it's not doing it now, so I must not be close to the broken gear. When I first plugged it in, to make sure all these batteries were good, because they're just laying up here, this wouldn't turn. Then I touched it and started turning. So there's probably a broken gear up inside, and we're going to show you how to get to it. I gotta turn on my machine here. There we go. Just take out the reindeer, move it out of the way. I'll turn that off and move this out of the way. So here's the inside. There's your motor. You can see the screw or the nut, and the screw and nut right there. And then that yellowish stuff or tan is actually balsa wood or wood. And the only way to get to it is to remove the top. So, going by how deep in the wood is, looking around, right here where this blue paint is a seam. And it's not very visible here, but it's really visible back here, where they didn't get the paint onto the glue. Even at the light you may not see it. Yeah, kinda. You can see the gap. The bottom of this is porcelain. Top apparently is porcelain too. Always do the tap test, and that's how you can usually figure it out. So we're going to heat up around this. You can see some of these spires are broke off, which is how I pull out of the box. Those and those. The reindeer has a broken antler and a broken leg. It's an older piece that gets displayed a lot, so sometimes damage happens. So that's how I pulled it out. Now what's interesting is instead of having the eagle, it's got a reindeer. In case you've never seen this piece. Imitates the Postal Service without infringing upon their logo. Alright. So this logo or stamp, because it's perforated like a stamp, will definitely have to come off because it's glued to top and bottom. So we'll probably start there. And because this is porcelain, I'm going to start with something rigid. Because it's going to probably take more force. Hopefully not. So I'm using a heat gun or heat pen. If yours is adjustable, I have it set for 250 Celsius. If yours isn't adjustable, this would be high heat. If yours has a pointed nozzle, it'd be greater, a greater advantage, because you could just point it at the glue seam. If you have a wide nozzle, you gotta be careful that you don't discolor the paint or melt all the snow. No movement. have heard of people, I haven't done it myself, putting these in the oven, because they're porcelain, at like 160 degrees or 170 degrees for 15 minutes or so, to help break the glues down. I have not tried it. I'm not going to take somebody's piece and try that. I would try it to my own, but I don't have any solid porcelain pieces to test it out on. Most of my pieces are porcelain and resin, or all resin, or of the new style plastic. This is a pretty interesting looking piece with the flying deer wanted apply within, your NP mail for North Pole, your blue boxes open late Christmas Eve, you know, all your different signage that you have on here. Alright, well, that wasn't what I wanted to happen. So the top of the sign broke. The problem with Department 56 is they use a very, very strong resin glue, and that's why they're so hard to disassemble. You have to get them really hot. So apparently it's not hot enough, so I'm going to bump this up a little bit. So, and I'm going to work on the big seam, because it looks like the glue on this side has separated. If you break yours, especially on the porcelain, if it's a clean break, meaning it didn't splinter, you can actually glue it back together and the seam will be invisible. You won't see it. If it splinters, you're going to have a problem. I wasn't even putting that much pressure on it. I just got the porcelain hot enough that it had a weak spot. Plus there's a defect in the casting. There's a hollow spot in the middle of the sign casting. So most likely the heat gun expanded the air gap and caused it to crack. Accidents happen. Hopefully they're not so bad that you can't rectify it easily. But when you do heat this up, make sure you rotate or move your heat gun. Rotate the building or the heat gun. I can hear the porcelain cracking. And I don't mean cracking as it's a shattering. It's cracking as in it's flexing and it's starting to move. If you do it in one spot, you'll actually just crack the porcelain. Or ceramic. Whatever you want to call it. This is why working on the ceramic or porcelain buildings is a pain, is because even though they get hot, if they're not heated evenly, they can shatter. The other problem with throwing this in the oven, I would see, is that you have plastic stuff called gears that we're going to try and get to, and then this thing here is plastic, this black tip. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever smelled what plastic smells like when it gets hot. It doesn't smell good. Ooh. I don't know if you barely even touched that. Jeez. This seam is so tight. I think I'm going to have to get it a lot hotter. I'll try a thin spudger and see if that does anything. Nope. Okay. So this is the longest part of doing all this. The resin glue they use to re-adhere the porcelain, or to glue the porcelain together, is extremely strong and has a very high temperature. to melt it, to cause it to lose its adhesion. Unfortunately, that very high temperature is also very close to the point where you can crack your porcelain. So keep your heat moving. Try and heat it uniformly. That's why they say an oven might work, or I've heard. Again, I have not tried it. I've tried flattening plastic with an oven before. It didn't turn out so well. But I haven't tried cooking a porcelain house. I know technically it should be fine because porcelain is fired in a kiln. I'm more concerned about the plastic components on the inside, called gears, because they're usually a nylon, and like that's plastic. And the paint. You get the paint super hot, it starts to discolor. Technically, 100 and some odd degree oven shouldn't discolor the paint, but I know Murphy, and he likes to screw with me, like the sign cracking, stuff like that. Also, if you're going to do something like this, make sure you wear safety goggles in case the porcelain does crack or explode. You don't get little shards in your eye. I wear glasses, and then I also got magnifiers on, so I have 2 layers between the house and my eyes. It's not common, but things happen. Also, you're blowing hot air into a gap that has glued on, sprinkled on glitter type snow. You'd be surprised how fast that stuff will flake off and just blow up into the air and then get in your eyeball, because this is hot enough to break the glue and cause the glitter to fly, as well as the glitter will start to get hot and melt, because it's kind of like a mylar or acrylic. It melts. It's interesting stuff. Because some of the houses you have to get they put the snow with the fake glitter snow on top of it right on the seam to help hide the seams. This thing has got to start moving. I mean, I can see the glue bubbling, but it's not bubbling enough to break it free. Now we're going to continue. If you want to skip ahead, you can. I have no idea to what number. Most likely the outer edge is hot enough to separate, but I'm sure the glue on this is probably close to 1/2 inch wide. Just got to get the heat to penetrate through all the porcelain. I think part of it's behind the sign where it's not separating. Okay. Oh. I might just have to pause this until I get it hot enough. But right now I was pumping 400-degree air onto this thing, and just to show how hot it is, you can see it instantly starts to burn the towel. It's the porcelain is actually rather warm, but the glue is just not giving up its the adhesion. So I'm going to bump it up to the maximum, which is 480 degrees Celsius, which is quite hot. And I'm going to try and remove this tip, which might be a problem, because I can smell that the heat gun is going to start overheating at this temperature with this small hole. I just got to find a place to put this where it won't burn and melt something. So when you use a broader head like this, you need to keep it moving, because now you're not just heating the seam, you're heating everything around it. This is 480 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know what, 800-900 Fahrenheit, something like that. It's hot. Trust me. That's why I keep moving this hand, is because the air blowing across the unit is hot. The spires are plastic and they're not liking it at all. You still hear it going all Rice Krispies, but it's still not breaking free. The reason I'm not blowing this up inside the bottom, if you're wondering, is because there's wires, there's a motor, and there's a piece of wood that separates the top from, oh, look at that, the porcelain chipped. Whew, don't touch that. Yeah, there's a piece of balsa wood that's keeping the heat from getting up to the top that the motor's attached to. So try not to heat the inside. You supply heat to the outside only. God, that's hot. She's moving. I just need to do a little bit more on this half. And this side split. And that's what I was talking about. This gets so hot it'll start to crack the porcelain. Now, when you stick it back together, if you want to use super glue, you won't have to use as much heat. Or you can use hot glue, but then you don't want to ever lift it by its top. And apparently that side broke off already too. Yeah, this thing is hot. Alright, I'm going to put this over here so it can start to cool down. This black piece is threaded on. Take that off. And, oh, come on. Come on. Oh. Here we go. Holy smokes, that is hot. The reason you can't take the motor out from the bottom is as soon as you do, you see there's nothing holding these screws in. There's no glue, there's no nothing. They would just be flopping around. I'm hoping there's enough radiant heat in here to get the balsa wood to pop up and we can just take the whole assembly out. This whole thing is very hot. So that's finally cooled down. It's amazing that the heat gun just got the porcelain hot enough to break the outer layer of glue, but not the inner layer of glue, isn't it? That's usually how it seems to work. Now what's nice is if you do break the wood, it's literally just balsa wood. You can get balsa wood from any store. You can get it from the hobby section of like Michael's and stuff. So I'm never overly concerned because you can also, you can also get it from Ace Hardware, and they even sell it in the Cricut area or your vinyl cutters, because you can cut this thickness of wood or etch it with your Cricut or what's the other one called? It's not a shadow, but there's a name for it. So there we go. Alright, I'm gonna have to heat this side up. This may not have a gearbox, it may just be jumping on the armature. But I saw it took about 20 minutes to get the top piece off. When I put this together, I'm going to hot glue the balsa wood in, and then I'm going to probably just super glue the top on. That way it'll be brittle glue and it can be broke off easy with some heat. Don't have to get it up to 1,000 degrees to get her to break free. There we go. All right. All right. There's our motor. See how the nut's just spinning? That's what I'm talking about. If you could get the nut off, the screw would just spin. You'd never get the motor back in from the bottom. You have to take it out from the top. There's another piece, a Limax piece, that's very similar. You have to take the whole top off and it's held in with a piece of wood. So the gearbox is in here. This gearbox just says DC motor JS30. That's what it says on the top. And now we'll open this up. And there's our gears. So this is a micro gear set similar to what they put in synchronous motor. So they're just taking a regular motor and turning it into a synchronous motor. Or this, yeah, it's just a regular motor. So here's a, you can see all the gears. There we go. I didn't have it into position to cool itself down and turn off. It's cooling down now. So I'm going to use the battery pack, and I'm going to see if I can see where my failure might be. So all the gears are turning. And what I'm looking for is, or listening for, or feeling for, because I'm using my fingers too, is for a crack. This gear looks completely fine. And now I'm going to put a little bit of a load on the gears here with my finger. I think it's the main drive. I think the main drive is slipping. The one that's coming off the motor. But this grease, or grease is kind of thick like honey. It's really sticky. It's not very lubricating, which also will put a strain on it and could technically, when I had to touch it to make it move, could have broke free the congealed grease that acts like concrete. So it may not be a bad gear. It looks like it has a bad gear, but it's hard to tell. It could just be all the crap in here from the grease. So, they do look good. Now, if any of these gears are broke, you're going to have a hard time finding them. So, gear's good. Gear looks good. Gear's good. That's good. I think it's the fact that let's just check this one. This is the one I was concerned about. Oh no, she's not cracked. She's still pressed on. She does not move. What I'm mostly concerned about is how thick that grease is too at the moment, because that'll definitely cause it to run slow. So I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol and a cotton swab to clean in here. I use 99%. You can use anything above 70. I usually recommend anything above 90. 90, 91 is usually the best. If you want to buy the 91 or the 99% from Amazon, you can. I'll link it below. That's up to you. I buy the gallon jugs. That it also comes in small jugs, 4 of them to total a gallon. But this is good for all sorts of things. Works for cleaning cuts, cleaning electronics. Like the battery pack has got some corrosion in it. Batteries were probably left in it at one point because there were no batteries in it when I got it. And it's good for cleaning off that corrosion. White vinegar works too. Alcohol is what I prefer. If you don't like the smell of vinegar, you're definitely not wanting to clean it with vinegar. But I just find that the rubbing alcohol works the best. Just personal trials. Everybody has their own results. So there we go. it's sticky and slimy at the same time. It's a very interesting feeling to get this crap off. When grease gets old, it either gets thick or it becomes like concrete where it absorbs all the dust and debris in the air, and then it just gets to the point where it doesn't work anymore. This stuff is sticky and slimy all at the same time, and it's thick, but it doesn't have any debris in it because it's inside this house and it's sealed pretty well. So, and we're going to relubricate this in a couple of moments here with some white PTFE grease. You can get it in tubes or jars. Comes in different fashions. Don't use oils. Oils will ruin the motor. It'll follow the shaft of the armature down and burn out your motor. And don't use any silicone based, because silicone based greases can dissolve or damage the integrity of these nylon gears. They're relatively sensitive to chemicals. Now, when I need gears like this, I take old synchronous motors and I disassemble them and turn them into parts pieces. So what I'm talking about is, once I get this together, I'll try and show you. Come on, you need to drop into place. So this is a synchronous motor. All these gears represent what these pins are, and this is your output shaft, which is this right here. So that's all encapsulated, and they're sealed, but they're not. They're just folded over pins that you have to pry open. But inside those are these style gears. So I'll take a few every once in a while, and I will open them up and get some of these gears. They're not very common, but some of the newer Limax is now using micro gears. And micro gears are these smaller gears. And not a lot of places carry micro gears. So you gotta scavenge what you can from where you can if you want to keep your stuff going and not have too many issues. So definitely helps if I have it the right way. First I'm going to do is put some on here and put this back on, and I'm going to work it in so that way this bushing is lubricated. We got a nice spin. And now I do it as I turn it on. That way the motion of the gears will start pulling the grease in. You can do it off and then add the grease. I do it both ways depending on what I'm doing. So now all the teeth are coated. It's done a couple of revolutions on the last gear. Now we're going to put this in. So first we'll line the bottom stud up with its open hole. And once we get that lined up, we'll drop the plate on. Some tell me I put a gear in wrong. I think this gear is upside down. That looks better. I normally take a picture of these so I know the order, well, the direction Apparently I flip these two over from each other as far as how they line up in here. And then this one's obvious. There we go. That can only go on one way. That's better. Now it's spinning faster. So there's little indentations in the top here that these pins sit in. Just got to get them all to line up. Okay, that one's not seating. Should have taken a picture before doing this. This one pin doesn't want to stick high enough with the gears for it to engage into the top. There we go. Get one gear out of alignment, and hey, look at that, now it goes back together. Go. Now let's make sure it turns. Alright, it's not turning. That's not good. Either I made it too tight or I have an alignment issue still. Yeah, she spins freely. So that means one of the pins didn't go into the cap in the right spot. So let's see if I do it while it's running, if I can get it to do it, or it'll self-center. There we go. So if you have this piece, do it that way. It went on with no issues with it running, because that pin will walk itself right into the hole, whichever pin was out of alignment. It is turning. It's hard to see because it's not turning overly fast. And because it's only a 3 volt or 6 volt system, it's not screw went in at an angle. It's not a lot of power since it's just running on batteries. show you that it's turning. There you go. See, so you may not see it like that. Now we just do the reassembly prep. I try to chisel off some of the glue, that way it'll sit flat. Use a X-Acto knife or side cutters. You can reheat it, which sometimes will help. Usually when it's dry and you heated it a couple of times, it becomes brittle. And you can generally just get it off with a scraper or a razor knife, but this house is just fighting. So this is the down mating surface. The face is straight down. Now we'll work on the up surface, which is what the top cap attaches to. You'll do this with a X-Acto knife or some other version. Not to cut yourself. Alright, I get tired of the smell of alcohol, so let's put the cap on and get that out of the way. Also try and prep this. Usually will come off the porcelain a lot easier because it's not as porous, so it has less to adhere to. Looking at this, it looks like there is no glue on the sign, so you probably don't have to heat it up. At least this one doesn't have any. It looked like there was glue right here where you see that. That's just paint. So what I thought was glue was literally just paint. But I've not taken one of these apart, so I gotta go find that. It's trash anyway, but it's flew over my head and hit the ceiling. Cleaning it up and getting it prepped. If you're still watching or you're at this part and you're not just bouncing around, almost time for the pieces to start coming out for Halloween. April, so pretty soon, you know, May I think is when they start releasing the Department 56 stuff. I know I have a whole bunch of stuff on pre-order. You all excited for what's coming out this year? I have stuff on pre-order because Department 56 finally is releasing Southwest style stuff, and I really want to do a ghost town. I've been to several of them throughout the state here, and I think it'd just be kind of cool to do a little ghost town. And since they're finally doing, you know, sand and cacti and things of that nature, I want to do a ghost town, so I pre-ordered a lot of that stuff. I use some of their older wooden walkways from their, you know, Southwest style haunted stuff to accent it, but yeah. So I want to do a ghost town vignette and or vignette, and they don't have any ghost town houses that I've been able to find, but doesn't mean I can't just make one out of something. Kind of like watching, you know, Carl from Halloween Villages by Carl, where he made his Klebold Street house, and if you do something like that, it'll take a while, but I think it might look cool. Make sure it still spins, or it did. There we go. I think I made the screws too tight. I think I'm flexing the plate. Problem with the plastic when they do this is they flex. It might be why the one screw was loose when I got it. I thought it was just loose from, you know, age, but it's probably loose from torque. There we go. Okay, so make sure you test everything, because apparently just torquing down the screws is enough torque to put pressure on the plate and squish it too much. And so when I took it out, one of these was already loose and the other one wasn't very tight, but it was snug. And to prevent them from backing off and falling out, super glue, Gorilla Glue, they normally don't stick very well to steel or metal. So if you just put a drop and a drop, what that does is it prevents those nuts from vibration from backing out, but you can take them off by putting on a pair of pliers or and then twisting it, and it'll just crack and shatter. Also, clear nail polish works good too. I don't know where mine is. I do use clear nail polish for that as well. So now, of course, now it's clean. I believe it was that way. Yeah, this way. Doesn't fit the other way because of the this is not out a little bit right here. This one says E125. I don't know if that's just the product number when it was on the assembly line. Before I glue it though, I want to make sure it is centered. So I'm going to put the cap on it and then use the cap to center the wood like that. So now I know where it goes. And I'm just going to use super glue. So I'm going to brush it thin on the front because there's not a lot of glue on the front because of that sign, and then a little bit thicker on the back and the sides. Again, super glue doesn't require near, or whatever the technical name for it is, acetate, something like that glue, near as much heat to break it free as resin glues, which is what they use at the factory, and it Again, while it's still curing before it's solid, I'm going to use the cap to center it, like so. There we go. There, she's centered. Lifting on this side, so I'm just going to squeeze a little under. That's why I like these brushes from Gorilla. That's why I like to use the Gorilla super glues, is because the applicator brush and their yellow cap. Their gel works really good too. What I don't like about their gel is it doesn't last long. If you don't use that bottle within like a week, the bottle becomes solid as a rock. And that's quite annoying because it's expensive. But I've used all the different glues, super glue, Loctite, Gorilla, so on and so forth. And I found that the Gorilla Glue works the best for me. I need some, I'll just use a trash motor. I just need something with some weight to press this down. I need to press down, but I want to glue the motor to the balsa wood. But anyhow, so now it's just the reassembly process. Basically, what I'm going to do is let this sit for a few minutes, let the wood stick. Once it sticks, I'm going to stick this back on. I'm going to super glue it as well, or Gorilla Glue it, since I don't use super glue. And then once that's done, then I will fix all the broken porcelain, so where the corners cracked from the heat and the sign and all that jazz. And then I'll screw the bottom back in. This is held in with 4 screws. When I got it, it only had 3, so I'll just put the 3 in. It didn't have the batteries, but before I do it, I am going to clean the battery box. There is green corrosion on one side. And then when I come back, it should be fully assembled and functional. So instead of me talking to you randomly for 20 minutes while waiting for all the glues to cure, we'll just take a little break. Since we're already at 54 minutes into this thing, at least we're on the reassembly side. So the longest part is just heating it up to take it apart. Oh, and that motor is accessible. That little, just the motor, not the gearbox, that motor, because it unscrews, you can buy that motor. It's the same exact motor they use in the swinging ghoulies and a couple other small, older Department 56s. I'll get the model number before the video is over, but we're going to pause it for now, and I'm going to get this thing back together, and then we'll be back when it's finished. Okay, we're back, and it's all glued together. That took forever. The glue, the top part set, but these corners kept falling, so I had to hold them. But here we go. Here's the light. You see the thing moving, and you can see the sign, even though it cracked because it was a clean break. You can't see the seam. So that's one nice thing about porcelain. If it doesn't chip, there is almost no seam when you re-glue this. Oops, I pulled on it and it stopped. I think I might have just unplugged it, but we'll check. So as far as difficulty goes, oh, I did put the battery box in, but I just, yeah, it wasn't seated. As far as difficulty goes, it's not terribly difficult. Yeah, it just, when I yanked on the cord, it must have done something, because she's working just fine. It's a square hole. Oh, sorry, it's a rectangular hole. It only goes in 2 ways because it's a rectangular shaft. But difficulty-wise, it's not the easiest. You have to get this piece really hot. Like I said, I got it up to the max of my machine, which is like 480 Celsius. Let's do some quick conversion here. 480 C. That is 896 degrees Fahrenheit. That is ungodly hot. That's why this stuff was super hot, and that's why these corners were cracking. You saw the type of resin glue they used. I used this. Gorilla. We'll do it that way so you can read it. You can use this, which just doesn't have the brush. If you want it to be more permanent, I use this one. This stuff is like the resin glues. It's pretty permanent. If you want it to be more user-friendly and easier to take apart in the future, hot glue when you put it back together. So motor, I do have one. Where'd I put it? So it's old, as you can see. It says Radio Shack. There's the motor. So if the motor died, it's a replaceable motor. Apparently it is... There's no marking on it, but it's the Radio Shack part number, which might be cross-referenceable, is 273-223. Trying to get the glare. There you go. So anyhow, this is also the same motor they use in the spinning ghoulies. Or swinging ghoulies, sorry, to make the ghoulies spin. But as far as repairing it, it's not difficult once you get the top off. If you break the little gears, that's where the difficulty comes in. Motor dies, replaceable. I would clean it like I did on this one, get all the gunk out of it, clean the old grease, and then replace it with some of this. This one's from Super Lube, but it's just PTFE grease. It says in really small print, synthetic grease with PTFE. And I get it in little containers, probably seen before, from Happy Holidays Parts. And I get multiple at a time, as you can see. Because I do a lot of these. You can get it in a bigger tube, but the little tubes are nice for getting into the gearboxes. You get some big thing in the way, it's really hard to maneuver it around. But as far as this piece goes, it is repairable. On the battery box, if the two LEDs burn out, it does come apart. You can fix the LEDs. If the batteries explode and turn your contacts white or green, or that teal, blue, green color, I use rubbing alcohol, 99%, a toothbrush. It's probably a toothbrush you don't want to brush your teeth with again, but if you do, that's your prerogative. You can use Q-tip or a cotton swab. Sometimes you can use like a little brass brush if it's really, really gunked on. White vinegar works too, but there's many options out there. As far as being porcelain, it's got its pros and cons. Just like on the Limax one, where you have to remove the whole top to get to the motor, it's getting it that hot. When you get it that hot, the big rectangular piece will absorb the heat and do its thing. But these decorative outcroppings, they're going to probably crack like it did on this one. All four corners cracked because of how hot you have to get it to break the resin apart. Some of the newer stuff, the resin glue isn't as strong. It's either a different mixture or they went to something lighter for cost savings. Don't know. All I know is it's a lot easier to take the newer ones apart. These older ones are a little bit harder because the glue is much, much stronger. If it's still bonded. If it's not bonded, it usually just breaks apart with just a little bit of prying. It also depends on the climate. More humid, more dry, hotter, colder climates will affect how the glue lasts throughout its lifespan. But there we go. That is the Department 56 Letters to Santa Sorting Station from the North Pole series with its Display Anywhere lighting, which is why it runs on batteries. Limax calls them a tabletop piece. So apparently they call this a Display Anywhere. But nonetheless, that's it. It's all done. I'm going to put her back to enter its box and get it sent back to its owner. So any questions, comments, put them below. Until the next one.